What's up, guys? Welcome to KSR Happy Hour, the hottest new show on the KSR YouTube channel. My name is Tyler Thompson. I am joined today by Zack Geoghegan, who is beautifully modeling that Country Boy Keylon Cougar bait. Shout out to our sponsors, Country Boy Brewing. I have, I wanted that sound to go over my microphone because it's beautiful.
I heard it.
I have the Cliff Jumper IPA, one of my favorites. And we are also joined by Jacob Polacheck, who is fresh off the Peach Jam and talking to Mark Pope today. It's going to be a very basketball-centric episode of KSR Happy Hour. So, Jacob, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I got water. I didn't bring anything fun.
That's okay.
There's vodka in there. He's lying.
Yeah, no. There's Country Boy. I threw some in there. But no, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on here.
Absolutely. There's a ton to talk about. Like, it's been a very busy July anyways, but today has been super busy. As mentioned, there was a Mark Pope press conference today. How often do we get those right in the middle of summer? So we've got updates from Pope. We've got TBT. La Familia is going for a spot in the quarterfinals tomorrow night. Zach, you've been there watching it all. We're going to have you break that down. And then Jacob, you were at the Peach Jam in North Augusta. So you've got all the Kentucky basketball recruiting updates that we need and that we want. Drew Franklin may join us a little bit later. He has an excused absence. He had planned on being here, but his mother is getting out of the hospital and is arriving at his home as we speak. So
Sweet.
That is very good reason to miss the KSR Happy Hour if you have to. So cheers to Drew and the Franklins, and we will hold down the fort without him. It looks like on our rundown, Mark Pope updates is number one. So Mark Pope wrapped up. Well, actually, we have one more press conference coming before the Kentucky basketball summer media opportunities end. On Thursday, we'll get to talk to the freshmen. But Pope wanted to talk to his people today, and Zach and Jacob, you were both there to hear him kind of give an update. What was the last time we heard from him?
It was a little over a month ago when Jack talked to him in Colorado Springs.
That's right.
But I think before then, it may have been a few weeks before then that he actually did a sit down with us. So
yeah. So, I mean, a little bit's happened since he last talked.
Yeah.
A lot of summer practices. We've had, bits and pieces that we've seen through pictures and videos, and it has looked awesome. There's the scrimmage that we can't call a scrimmage, but apparently everybody else is calling a scrimmage between UK, the current team, and La Familia, the TBT team. So he was kind of able to weigh in on all of that. And then, Zach, why don't you share, to start us off, the biggest piece of news, so to speak, the Andre Jelavic update. Take it away.
Yeah, so I asked Pope, what the status is on, I believe it's Jelovich. I don't know that for sure, I think, but that's what I've been saying. I don't know if
I
there might be
actually
an actual pronunciation for it.
Andrea Jelovich.
Jelovich.
You are
So,
correct.
yeah, he's still over in Croatia right now. I asked Pope, I said, hey, what's the status? What will the process look like of getting him here? He said that the transcripts are all good. All the classes are finished. Kind of similar stuff to what Jack was saying on KS Board. I think that was a week ago he wrote about that. And basically saying that everything is clear from the school perspective, at least over in Croatia. Now they're going into the next step of the process. He did not get in onto what that process looks like. And he was this close to listing off a timeline. He goes, I don't want to be optimistic, but I think we'll get him here, ... I'd like to get him here as soon as possible type thing. So he refused to put a timeline on it. Probably smart from his perspective because anything can happen. You don't want to have anything blow back on you. So, but by all accounts, he does expect Jelovich to be here, at some point over the summer, whether that's later this month, after all the guys come back from summer practices, because we're now 5 weeks into summer. I believe this is today was the start of the 6th week of summer practice. So they got 3 more weeks of that. And then after that, the guys will kind of get to go be with their family, do whatever they want for maybe a week or so. I don't know exactly how long that break is, but then maybe after that is when Jelovich will get here. And they can start getting him acclimated as well. So the nice thing with him is just that it's not like he's an actual 18-year-old freshman. He's a 21-year-old freshman who has 2 years of pro experience. So the actual process of kind of building or fitting him into the team might not be as difficult as if the whole language barrier might be the only hiccup that you're trying to get over with if you're Pope. So you can handle all that, though. He should be able to kind of put him into practice seamlessly and rope him along because I do think Yelovich is going to be a pretty big piece of this team. But yeah, that was definitely the probably the biggest piece of news. Other than that, Mark, one of my favorite parts of the Mark Post press conference was so his daughter Shay showed up, and I guess they had like some talk beforehand of this is the I'm going on a little tangent here, but have you seen the videos of like the weatherman who tries to put like Gen Z like
Yeah.
phrases into his stuff? So I guess his daughter must have done that with Pope today because he used the word plus aura with Jasper Johnson, which I thought for a second I was hearing things because I was like, there's no way he just mentioned the word aura. And then he used the word crash out later, or the phrase crash out. And I was like, what? Am I living in a Mark Pope TikTok right now? It felt a little bit weird. And then afterwards, when the press conference was over, he revealed that Shay was trying to get him to say all these things. And he said he wanted to mention like the Rizzler or something like that. I was like, all right, we're getting
Oh
a
my
little
God.
too ridiculous, I think. So there's a bunch of other stuff in that press conference we can talk about. I'm sure Jacob was there with me too, so he can touch on the things. But definitely that Yelovich news was definitely the most important, and it seems like things are on pace to get him here eventually. There's just no exact timeline of when that might happen.
Gotcha. Well, fingers crossed that he gets here. And I think there's still so much to be excited about anyways that it's not that Yelovich has become an afterthought, but it's like there's been so much to look and get excited about. This player's doing great. That player's doing great. The depth is amazing. So for me, it's kind of like he's icing on the cake at this point.
Yeah,
And yeah, it does feel like a little like cringy dad moment when you hear people Mark Pope's
a little
age
bit.
or even people my age, good grief, trying to use Gen Z terms. So I had seen on Twitter, like on KS Board, shout out KS Board, you were giving updates from the press conference about his vocabulary today. So
Yeah,
yeah, good on Shay for challenging her dad to kind of update his vocab, but at the same time, a little bit cringy. Maybe hopefully that
very
doesn't
much.
become a thing. But Jacob, you were there as well, and I know you've got a post in the works about Pope and Patino because Patino famously put his 95-96 team through the ringer. Sounds like Pope is trying to take a page from his playbook in terms of conditioning this summer. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I thought Pope's quote about Patino is great. He said he told us if we didn't win every game, he was going to kill us. I thought that was pretty good. Just kind of showing Patino's intensity with that team, and then some other standouts. I know Zach touched on most of them, but I really liked John Wong asking Pope, "Why are you so bad defensively?" Really getting
Yeah, that
straight
that
to
was
the
out of
point
nowhere
there.
too. Yeah,
Yeah, and then somebody else, I can't remember who, asked a good question. Just when was the last time, if ever, you had a team that has really started out as a better defensive team than offensive team? And if I remember right, Pope said he really hadn't had one as a head coach, and mentioned a time when he was an assistant coach that he had some teams like that. So this could be a very different Mark Pope team in 2025.
Yeah, and I think something else that he said that stood out to me, I just had time to briefly watch his 28 minutes of beautiful quotes. He compared Braden Hawthorne to Tayshaun Prince,
hmm
which that's pretty big praise. And, for someone who was of the era that when Tayshaun was coming up, I was in Rep Arena when he hit the 5 threes versus UNC. Tayshaun is just such a unique player in terms of size and skill set. So very excited to hear that. I mean, there's been a ton of promising things come out of practice and reports and all that, but I feel like Braden Hawthorne has kind of been a big surprise this summer, right? I mean, I think he's a 4-star player coming in, but it sounds like the upside is even better than we thought.
It
yeah, and
seems like he's just on the right trajectory right now. Just continues to rise in the recruiting rankings, and then it's continued on to being at Kentucky.
yeah, and something that Brandon Ramsey's kind of brought to talked about more is like Jasper and Malachi are both top 30-ish recruits, something like that. Braden Hawthorne's right there at 35, but his rise was kind of like meteoric, last second type deal. So, he probably should be more in the conversation when we're talking about freshmen like Jasper and Malachi, but because he came up so late, committed late, we kind of maybe put him on like a lower tier when maybe we shouldn't. Maybe Braden Hawthorne is just going to be this talented of a player, and by all accounts, it seems like he's been a very good player in practice. We had the Tayshaun Prince comparison. Pope was very big on his ankle mobility, which I was almost going to ask for a follow up on it, but I knew I was going to get a bunch of word salad on that, but he
Yeah.
basically said, yeah, he said that his ankles are great. Like, he's got very quick movement with his ankles. So I guess that's good. We've had some ankle
Yeah.
issues with this program over the last few years. So hopefully Braden Hawthorne's got some really strong ankles, and I guess they're helping him. But yeah, the length and the skill is probably where the Tayshaun Prince comparison comes to ahead there. But we also had Pope himself called it a scrimmage against the TBT team multiple times. So I'm just gonna start calling it a scrimmage. If Mark Pope is saying it, I think
If he can get
it's
away with it, I think that we can.
yeah. I think about a week ago when Sean Woods and all them were calling it a scrimmage, UK just kind of dropped that whole bit of trying to pretend that it's not a scrimmage. I was going with 5-on-5 instead of scrimmage, which is still the same word essentially. But so scrimmage, yes. Pope said he was kind of disappointed with how the defense was or started out in the scrimmage. Got better as kind of the game went along, though. Another point, he was really high on the backcourt, had a lot of good praise for the backcourt players. He mentioned guys like Ortega and Colin Chandler getting some spot minutes as the point guard in practice, which I thought was kind of interesting. Especially with Jalen Lowe kind of assumed to be the PG1. And the question that was asked was, who would kind of be the backup, so to speak, or kind of the guy that comes in and maybe relieves Jalen Lowe of his duties whenever he takes, his 10 or 10 minutes a break a game. So yeah, you'll see guys like Jasper too. He said Aberdeen can play some minutes up there as well. But he's very excited about the backcourt. That was kind of a little bit of a theme throughout the press conference was a lot of potential he likes out of the guys that he's seen so far in practice, at least.
Yeah, and you mentioned the TBT scrimmage. That's a beautiful transition, as Mark Pope would say, to La Familia's run in TBT. Of course, we'll have a ton from Mark Pope's press conference on KSR and on the KSR YouTube channel. I think that replay is already up, so check it out. But we'll be rolling out that content all week. And then on Thursday, we get to talk to Braden Hawthorne, Jasper Johnson, and Malachi Marino. So lots of Kentucky basketball content coming your way. But let's talk about the former Cats in TBT because that we had July basketball this weekend. It was awesome. We could cheer for Kentucky basketball players in Memorial Coliseum. I know, Jacob, you were busy on the road to Peach Jam, but Zach, you were right there, had a front row to the action. It was so fun. I mean, the first game was fun because Kentucky or La Familia, rolled and all that. I know, I do the same thing. It's natural, right? But yesterday got a little scary. La Familia had a pretty big lead, and then it kind of started playing out like some of the Calipari teams in the past in March. And you were like, oh no, like we almost had the full Archie Goodwin experience. But I was so happy that Archie Goodwin was the one to hit the Elam ending to give La Familia the win. They're playing tomorrow night against Archie's old team, Eberling Drive. I mean, Zach, you've broken this down a million ways. You and Mario did the rapid reaction, which has been great. You were joined by DJ Burns on that rapid reaction, which was so cool. But give us your quick takeaways from yesterday, a very entertaining afternoon.
Yesterday's game was Friday's game was a blowout, but it was still fun because they were pressing, full court in the middle of the third quarter and things like that. So it helped with the fans, the crowd and all that. But yesterday's game was great. La Familia kind of came out of the gates early, hot. I think they led by 8 after the first quarter. Looked like they might be able to just run away with this. I think it got up to 12, maybe a 15-point lead at one point, and then War Ready kind of starts to make their little comeback, and things started to get really chippy too. I think that was the crowd was loving that. We were all loving that. There were 7 total technical fouls dished out, multiple double techs type thing. We even had we had a TV review, like a monitor review at one point. So I didn't even know they did that in TBT. But it got so crazy there towards the end of the Elam ending that they had to bring that up. But the game started with the Elam ending really because La Familia went into it. I think they were up 71-65, something like that. So the target score was set at 79. So they had some cushion to get there. And I think they even scored first in the start of the Elam ending. And then they kind of got a little. That's the thing with the Elam ending is it can tease you a little bit. It can tease you into maybe wanting to take bad 3-pointers when maybe you shouldn't, or maybe thinking that you have a little bit, you have a few more possessions than maybe you really do. So War Ready just started to stack up easy buckets, dunk after dunk. All of a sudden the game's tied at 76 and everyone's like, well, what the hell's going on? The crowd was getting a little bit antsy. And then Archie Goodwin decides to take over. Rips the guy at the half court, comes down. He said in the post-game press conference, he almost pulled it for 3 right there to win it, which would have been just insane if he even tried to pull that off. Almost wish he did, but he went for the easy layup. And then next time down, you got Willie Cauley-Stein stopping two guys on the perimeter trying to take the three to win the game. Both of those shots missed. Then you see right here where Khalil Whitney diving on the floor goes right to Archie, and then he does his old Otega Owe impression to the best of his abilities in there. And Steven, my goodness,
I love this.
that is so fast right there. Like, I want to see Steven's 40 time on that run to the court there, because he got out there as quick as he could. You had the current team was joining him right there. Like, you can see guys like Reese Potter, Jalen Lowe are in the pile there. So it was awesome. It really was a huge. The atmosphere was great. DJ Burns is running around like he's the team mascot, but he's also making big plays in the fourth quarter. So it's been a lot of fun. They do need to work on their free throws, though. My goodness, Archie Goodwin missed 6 in a row at one point. And I think the team as a whole maybe missed 15 or 14 free throws. So it was not like if they had made half of those, this game is not even anywhere close. So, but it's been fun. The TBT's been awesome. I think the team they had this year is probably a little bit deeper and more talented than last year. They're off to a great start now, and they're going to face Archie Goodwin's old team, Eberline Drive, here on Tuesday night, where Steven and Mario and I will be back in the building. I think Drew might try and come to that one as well. So, and La Familia will host the rest of the games as long as they're alive. So we won't even have to do a Philadelphia Final Four like they did last year. Like all these games can be in Lexington as long as La Familia keeps winning. So it's been a lot of fun so far. I've really enjoyed getting to cover it, especially right there from the side or court side there. You get to hear all the guys talking trash and everything. So it's been a blast of an experience so far.
Yeah, shout out to the Louisville's alumni team for losing, because they had the home court advantage, meaning they were set to host every game as long as they kept winning, including the quarterfinals versus Kentucky. But now that they're out, thanks to sideline cancer, La Familia is back in the driver's seat. And I think I saw today they have like the best odds to win it of all 22 teams left. So really fun. And if you had told me a week ago when we were previewing this that DJ Burns would be one of my favorite players, I would not have believed you. I mean, he's not even the most known DJ Burns in TBT, because there's the DJ Burns from NC State, who I loved at the time. But this DJ Burns is even better. You know, he played at Murray State, played at Southern for Sean Woods. He is like the epitome of the energy guy. I love it because whenever he's at the scorer's table to check in, he's always clapping and like trying to get the bench and the fans into it. And he's been a really fun follow on Twitter this week, because you can tell he's just loving going back and forth with Kentucky fans. So just love it. And we figured out the origin of Eberline Drive's name. So
yes, because it is very confusing. Eberline is a word I'd never heard before until the basketball tournament.
Yeah, so they are one of two teams that have been around TBT since it started back in 2014. They are named after a street. So they're named after the street that co-general manager Jacob Hirschman was born on in Fraser, Michigan. So Eberline Drive is going to be a really sad place tomorrow when La Familia beats them. So I'm looking forward to that. It's on FS2 at 6 o'clock Eastern, and there are tickets still available. So if you're watching this and you want to kind of get in on the fun, just get a ticket, go to Moore Memorial, join Zach, join the dog pile in the middle with Steven at the end. It'll be fun.
I can't stress how great the crowds have been. Like, even the actual capacity was probably a little bit smaller on Sunday compared to Friday, but I think the energy was higher on Sunday. And part of it is just, it really is DJ Burns. Like, if there's ever a little bit of a lull in the crowd, it doesn't matter if he's on the bench or in the game, he's running up and down the sidelines, pumping people up. So he's been a blast to watch and follow along. And all these guys are really, they're really open. Like, listening to Archie Goodwin in the press conferences has been a joy. On top of his KSR interview, you get to hear these guys kind of be a little bit more raw and open about, their feelings. Whereas when they were at Kentucky, you're a little bit more guarded and obviously younger, just still learning how to talk to the media. So it's been a lot of fun. It really has.
Yeah, and like you said, I think for Archie and Khalil Whitney, this is kind of like, I don't want to say it's redemption, but it's a second chance to reconnect with Kentucky fans after their, I would say, disappointing time in Lexington. Archie's his run in 2012, 2013, affected by Nerlens Noel's injury, and then Khalil leaving the team mid-season in, 2019, 20. But yeah, I love that Archie, even after hitting the game winner in the press conference, he was like, I'm going back to the gym to work on my free throws, because I've never missed that many free throws in my entire life, and it's just not acceptable. So cheering for him, happy to see them have their moments. The YouTube chat is blowing up with people who are also loving TBT. Otis Hudson says, I'm glad to see our current guys and older guys re-embracing each other, showing how important Big Blue Nation really is. We've got Julie Sherving, who is cheering along from West Michigan and praying for Drew's mom's recovery. And then we've got Loving Native English Clint Vincent. That is a heck of a name. Who says, thanks KSR, love from Peru. Shout out to you in Peru for watching. And then Steven, who it always cracks me up, he shares his thoughts in the live chat, said, UK should hire DJ Burns to hype up the Rupp crowd. Yes, I agree.
Honestly.
I 100% agree.
That lower bowl, they need it. They need some DJ Burns in their life.
They definitely do. So we'll be watching tomorrow night. Jacob, so if you had to name a TBT team after the street you grew up in, what would it be?
Oh, that is a tough question. That's a Rouette DeVille. That was the street I grew up in. I don't know if there's.
That's a fancy name.
Yeah, that was one of my parents were divorced. I had a few streets I grew up on, but that was the one that comes to mind. I don't know if I can come up with maybe what was the Dalmatians? They had a DeVille, right? That was
Cruella DeVille.
Cruella DeVille. That was that's the one thing I can think of. Right? You're putting me on the spot here. I'm not sure.
You could have
so
spotted
they could be the Dalmatians.
jerseys.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
There you go.
Mine would be if I had to name it after the street I grew up on, Farside Drive. So
I could. That one flows a little bit better than Jacob's.
What about you, Zach?
Well, I like Jacob. I had multiple different ones. Abington Hill was one I had. That doesn't really go. Beacon Hill, not really.
Yeah.
Longview Drive. Yeah, these all sound like actual street names, so it doesn't work as well.
Fair enough. Well, let's shift over to Jacob because you've got probably some of the news and intel people are most excited to hear about. You were at Peach Jam in North Augusta where your compadre, Jack Pilgrim, had to head home early, leaving you stranded to get back to Kentucky somehow. By the way, shout out to Jack and Katie on the birth of their second son, Miles. Cheers to you. If you're watching, I hope you're not watching. I hope you're doing some beautiful family bonding and soaking in the moments. But yeah, so Jack had to leave. It was Friday. Yeah, you all, or was it?
It was there like 12 hours, maybe.
Oh yeah,
right.
Friday. Yeah. He left on Thursday. We got there Wednesday. He left on Thursday. He was texting with his wife trying to figure out when to leave, and he's like, you know what? Let's just go ask Mark Pope. So we went up, asked what Mark Pope saw. He said, you get in that car and you start going. And then he asked me to take a video of the two of them. And he's like, hey, Katie, we're getting your man home. So that was really cool of Mark Pope to do.
So Mark Pope asked to take the video?
He asked to take the video.
That's cool.
He just handed me Jack's phone and said, I need you to take this video. I don't ask questions.
As if we need another reason to love Mark Pope, right? Like, that's very cool that he did that. That's going to be a memory that Jack and his son and the rest of the family have for a lifetime. But yeah, so how did you get home? I mean, give us the other end of the story here. I mean, you're kind of running on your own down in North Augusta.
Yeah, well, I could tell you I hitchhiked and found my way back, but that is not true. Luckily, I ran into a local high school coach in Kentucky about 2 hours away from where I live in Louisville. So he took me that far, and then my girlfriend picked me up and took me back the rest of the way. So it was a team effort to get back to Louisville.
Shout out. Well, shout out to them. And before that happened, you got plenty of scoop from Kentucky's top targets in the 2026 and 2027 classes. I think we should probably start with Tyran Stokes, who seems to be the most exciting piece of news. Why don't you give us the latest on that?
Well, I don't have an interview with Tyran Stokes. I asked him about 7 times, and I got denied every time. But I did get an interview with his mom. So he's already taken official visits to Louisville, Kansas, and Kentucky in that order. And Kentucky's the most recent one. She talked about being at Claiborne Farms. That was really the big standout.
I think that was funny that she mentioned that.
Yeah, like I guess I get it, but as a high school basketball player going to be that impressed by a thoroughbred and a horse farm? I mean, his mom was.
It's all about impressing the parents, and
that's true.
and it did that. So she didn't have a ton to say about Kentucky. Just talked about Mark Pope kind of being a role player and knowing how to extend his time in the league. So that was an interesting angle for for the Kentucky side of things. And then I'm sure everyone's seen the quote about Louisville saying, I asked her straight up, like, how much did you watch of Kentucky last season? What are your thoughts about Tyron in that system? And she said, we're from Louisville. Louisvillians don't watch Kentucky basketball. It was an odd quote. I'm not taking too much of it because at Peach Jam, there was just a lot of talk about Kentucky's momentum in this recruitment. And I'm sure we're going to talk about the revenue share stuff, which only adds credence to it, because if they're putting a lot of money towards basketball, you're probably going to be putting a lot of money towards that number one overall prospect in NIL. So it probably puts Kentucky in a good position, but I'm not ready to say be ready yet. We're not anywhere near that yet. He's got 3 more official visits. Oregon, Gonzaga, and USC. So we've still got some time to go, but a lot of talk about Kentucky being in a good position with Tyron Stokes' recruitment.
I thought you were going to mention, when you mentioned the Louisville quote, that Tyron Stokes' mother calls Pat Kelsey Cuban coffee. I thought that was a hilarious, weird.
Still don't understand that, but
she said something about him bringing the energy. So not exactly sure what it means, but
yeah. From what I gathered from that interview, it doesn't sound like mom is a huge Kentucky fan, or maybe she's just trying to play the narrative. Yeah, one of those two options, it definitely feels like there. So.
Yeah, and I'm sure, Tyler, you probably like the part about the dog. I know Halo
100%
is his dog's name, that they brought on the Kansas visit, brought it on the Louisville visit, but not on campus, I believe. She said something, it was in Louisville with the family, but it sounded like that dog was gave a lot of problems to them on these visits. So they decided Kentucky and further visits, they're not dealing with having a dog on campus. As a dog owner myself, you couldn't pay me to bring a dog on a
well, you heard Remy in the background just then. I think he knew we were getting ready to talk about a recruit's dog, so he wanted to make his voice heard. But yeah, the logistics of traveling with a dog, it is like, I don't have children, none of us have children that we know of, but it's got to be like having a toddler. It's like you got to be prepared. It's got a bag that's twice the size of your bag of all the stuff you bring, and it's unpredictable. They whine in the car. I mean, this is coming from someone who spent too much time in the car with my dog lately, and my dog is not a huge fan of said car. But shout out to Tyron Stokes' dog. I think he would fit in lovely in Lexington, and there's been a whole lineage of Kentucky basketball players with dogs. We had Jackson Robinson. And then Davion Mintz had a dog. I think Jacob Toppin had a dog. Like that's been a big thing recently. So
yeah, I know Devin Booker's big on his dog on Instagram as well, but that was past Kentucky time.
I believe Okega's got a dog, so we got one on this year's roster.
He has a dog and he is a dog. So
there you go.
Well, I also know you had some updates on official visits getting scheduled.
Yeah, I know. Zach reported Deron Rippey's visit, and then he reported Caleb Holt's visit, and that got moved very recently. I asked Caleb Holt's dad why that got moved. I think it was the September 5th through 7th, and now it's the 12th through the 14th. And he said, no need to worry. We're not putting another school in that 5th through 7th date. It just works better for the family, so it's nothing to worry about. And then Christian Collins, he set a visit to Kentucky for October, I believe. And he said that last night. So I actually had an NBA scout tell me very recently that they feel good about where Kentucky is with Christian Collins. So who knows what that means? If who knows if you get Tyron Stokes, do you still go after Collins? If you what it means for everyone else. The way I look at things right now is it's Tyron Stokes, your number one target. You just figure out where to fit them, and then everyone else you can deal with figuring out how players fit alongside each other. Tyron Stokes is just the kind of player that you take no matter what, no matter what kind of fit. Everyone else you can fit around your current roster. Those are a few visits. I would expect Jordan Smith to set a visit at some point because his dad's been saying that their plan all along has been to set visits after Peach Jam. And then one other player, Baba Oladotun, the number 4 player in 2027, according to the Rivals industry ranking, number 6 in the Rivals rankings. There's been a lot of talk about him reclassifying into the 2026 class. He's already taking a visit to Gonzaga in October. So if he moves up a class, I'd expect Kentucky to look at getting him on campus for an official visit because basically he told me every blue blood is going after him. A lot of schools want him, and we'll see how they prioritize him if he does, in fact, make that move.
Yeah, so I was watching Here Comes the Boom. Shout out to your show, which is also on the KSR YouTube channel. You should be watching it. And I really enjoyed watching or hearing you talk about watching Tyrann Stokes. Because, it's easy to look at these recruiting rankings and be like, well, this guy's number 1 in 2026. This guy's number 1 in 2027. Top 5 guys in each class are going to be really good. But so watching Tyrann Stokes after, you just did a Peach Jam, is he that much better than everybody else in the class?
I think when he wants to be, yes. There are points.
Interesting answer.
There were points throughout Peach Jam where you could see. I think it's just that he's so much better than everyone that he just tunes out a little bit and just isn't as engaged. But then there was a game on, I want to say, Friday night where he just turned it on and was absolutely dominant. Had like 36 points. His team won by 30. You could just tell whenever he just flips that switch and wants to be the best player on the court, best player in the country, he can do it at any time. But there were times when he was just a little disengaged, and that gets guys like Brandon McCoy, Jordan Smith, Christian Collins, all those guys more in contention for that number 1 spot. But if you had to ask me who's number 1 player in the class, I don't think there's a question. It's Tyrann Stokes.
Fair enough. I like to hear it. It's when you talk about number 1 guys, it's always interesting to hear about how they looked in comparison to past number 1 guys in classes, because some classes are better than others, and etc. So excited to hear. Hopefully we'll get some more Tyrann Stokes news soon. Do we need to start sending Chewy subscriptions and boxes to his dog in hopes of luring him to Lexington? Is there a trail of dog biscuits we can lead down 64? We got to do to get them. Yeah.
If there's anyone that can get creative with this, I know it's Big Blue Nation. They'll come up with something.
It's coming soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what other Peach Jam takeaways did you have? Are there any other prospects that maybe you didn't go in expecting to see much from that kind of raised your eyes a little bit?
Yeah, one guy that has an offer from Kentucky that I thought really performed well is Bryson Howard, 6'5" guard out of Texas. He's number 34 in the On3 rankings, number 26 in the industry rankings. So he's approaching 5-star status potentially. Right now, firmly in 4-star status, and he's a player that I could really see Kentucky prioritizing going forward. He declined to disclose his visit dates or a commitment timeline, but says he's got some set up. So I know a lot of the Blue Bloods are going after him. He is a major riser in the 2026 class, and I'd expect Kentucky to get him on campus. And one interesting thing about him is his dad is Josh Howard, who played for the Dallas Mavericks, and he made it to an all-star game one year. So he's got some good NBA pedigree.
I think it was Josh Howard that had the red, white, and blue mouthpiece when he was playing. Do you know what I'm talking about, Jacob?
I think I remember that. I couldn't. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Someone go look it up. Prove me right. I'm pretty sure that he had a. That's how I remember Josh Howard when I was growing up.
There's a random piece of NBA trivia. I know that Zach's going to know it, so he is our expert. Well, what was the best thing you ate down there in North Augusta? Did you make it to the famous Hooters, where all the college basketball coaches hang out?
No, we didn't make it to the. We did make it to Hooters a few years ago with Jack, and they sang him "Happy Birthday." That was an all-time memory. But since Jack wasn't there, I didn't feel right going to Hooters. We did the one dinner I got with Jack, Texas Roadhouse. We were basically going there every year, so that was probably the best thing I ate while I was there.
Can't go wrong. That's peanuts on the floor, right?
Yes.
Is that where you throw?
I think so.
Wherever you could throw your peanut shells on the ground, it's a great place. Yeah, love that. Well, you mentioned a the revenue sharing report. That's probably been the biggest bombshell news of the day. So Matt Norlander reported earlier today, he had a long article about the revenue sharing era of college sports and, how it's actually playing out so far. And the consensus is, the moral of the story is, it's way more complicated than everybody thought it was going to be, and it's going to create more problems. But probably the part that's most interesting to Kentucky fans is he was at the Peach Jam all week, like you were, and was hearing in his talks with people that Kentucky is expected to dedicate 45% of its $20.5 million revenue sharing budget for the 2025-26 season to men's basketball. So for perspective, most schools are just dedicating 15% of their budget to men's basketball, which is roughly $3 million. 45% is $9.225 million. So that's 3 times the amount that most schools are going to do, which, if you do the math, leaves like 11 point something million dollars for the rest of the sports, including football, women's basketball, baseball, volleyball, all of them to divvy up. And that, it's been really fascinating to me to see the fan reaction to it, because I swear it's like right down the middle. Half of fans are like, yes, this is the right move. Kentucky's a basketball school. You should be going all in on basketball. But then you have people who may not even necessarily be football fans. They're just a little more realist that are saying you're sacrificing football. You're basically throwing the white flag in on football by doing this. You not only are in the most competitive, football conference in the country in the SEC, football's still the breadwinner, even at Kentucky. So what were your all's initial takes on this news? I know, Jacob, you thought it could be really good news for UK and Tyre and Stokes. And do you think it's a good move? Do you think it's a bad move, or we're just going to see what happens?
I think it's a good move. I think it allows you to figure out how to get around the rev share, and maybe pay guys that can pass that through that clearinghouse, pay payments that can go through that. It gives you time to do that. So you have basketball priority, national title contender, while football is kind of building up. And then when football is in the right spot, then maybe you can even that out a little more and make some more endorsement deals through basketball that can pass through that clearinghouse. That was kind of my initial thought on it. But yeah, I think that if Kentucky's in a tier above everyone else as far as basketball spending, that's certainly not going to hurt them with Tyron Stokes.
Yeah, Zach, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm probably in of the two groups you described, I'm probably in the latter group of, I'm more of a basketball guy, but it definitely seems like a dangerous game to play. Because like you said, if that ends up being the case, you are kind of punting on football, no pun intended there.
Yeah.
And that's a big financial lift that you get from the football team, even one that's not that great, So eventually the season tickets are going to dry up. Like, you can only go 2-10 so many times before people really just start to give up. And you've got the Vandy game crowd from whenever that was, a decade ago, kind of becoming like an everyday thing. So, but to me, it almost kind of comes off as like a threat from Barnhart, maybe, to try and establish some leverage with Stoops, that because he just does not have any really right now. And maybe this is almost like hey, if you continue to do this poorly, like, I'm just going to take away your money, which just seems like a dangerous game entirely to play. So I think, especially when you're in the SEC, I think it's just smart to have a football team that is competitive. It doesn't have to be a team that's going to compete for national championships, because if we're being honest, Kentucky historically just does not ever do that. So, but that doesn't have to always be the goal. The goal can be to, have a competitive football team that makes enough money to support the athletic department, or whatever they're calling it now over there. And so
Champions Blue.
Yeah, Champions Blue. So it seems like a dangerous game to play. I'll be honest, I would be shocked if Kentucky if the basketball team ends up getting 45% of the pot for the revenue sharing. I that would just surprise me to no end, because it just seems like a dangerous game from both ends to play. You're going to piss off a lot of people if you end up doing that. If it is, and if it's a threat, that almost, like by Barnhart, that just almost seems even sillier. So I'm not sure that that's maybe the case either. But it seems, like I said, a dangerous way to go about it is kind of how I would say. But when I was reading Norlander's article, basically all the coaches that he talked to were basically just saying there's rules, but we don't care about any of them because we don't think any of them are real, and we're just going to curtail and ignore most of them because what is anybody going to do? So I know the
Right.
whole clearinghouse, the NIL clearinghouse, is becoming almost a joke at this point because they're just turning down everything. Eventually they're going to find ways around that too. So it just feels like we're going to have a lot of lawsuits coming and things like that. Probably what needs to happen is just need to be a CBA. There needs to be some collective bargaining involved, and everyone just kind of get on the same
Yep.
page. That's probably where we're heading eventually, whether it's 5 or 10 years. Hopefully, it's well before that because you're just going to keep having issues like this popping up every so many months. Because the college coaches they don't seem to want to abide by any of these rules because there's nothing really keeping them from doing the opposite. So I'll be shocked if Kentucky, if they really are taking away 45%, or if they're taking up 45% and leaving, what is it? Originally, it's only going to be 5% ish for all the other sports. You get like 15 for men's basketball, and then the rest of it goes to football. Maybe the basketball team gets closer to 25% or something like that. But I imagine a lot of like this will just become a moot point because the NIL stuff, like just paying people outside of the revenue sharing, is probably just going to be the way that they end up doing it, whether that's legal or not, or however the whatever NCAA or the CSC, whoever kind of sets these guidelines. It's just there's no one really enforcing any of it. So I don't know. It seemed a little silly when I was reading it out loud.
Well,
If I'm
and
being
you
honest.
also, you also have to keep in mind these figures are usually half of what they actually are rumored to be,
Yeah.
right? Like, I think that's always everybody floated around that $20 million number with Kentucky basketball's NIL budget and the transfer portal this offseason. And we heard that was not the case, that was way too big. I think 45% is very big. Like, I think that UK would definitely put more towards men's basketball than most programs would because of its importance. And we knew about that. We knew that the SEC wanted to cap revenue shares by sport, agreed to let's do 15% for men's basketball. All schools have to agree for that, 75% for football, and UK pushed back against that. So we know that part is true. But this, it just seems like, and I'm not doubting Norlander's reporting at all, but you guys are in those gyms during recruiting events. You're hearing the coaches talk, and I'm hearing that, this school is giving so-and-so much money. I would be surprised if it's that much. And also, there have been some great cases made. There was somebody on KS Board who wrote today, the football roster and their NIL deals were set back in the winter. So maybe that had an impact on it. And Barnhart, one of the reasons why he's kind of declined to give out specific numbers for UK's, revenue share per sport is he wants it to be flexible for a year. So if football needs a little more money this year or women's basketball needs a little more money this year, they can change that. It's not going to be like every single year men's basketball is going to get 45%, football is going to get this set, percent, et cetera. Some other points that Cat Paws 270 made on the board was Kentucky's men's basketball roster was set in the spring after football was promised, and a lot of those guys hadn't gotten here yet. For this year, football is getting a bigger amount of NIL as there are no limits to their funding when all of that was put in place. So again, that's also something you have to consider. All of the percentages and stuff that we're talking about happened after July 1st. So anything that happened before then, there were no rules. Collectives could still collect as much money as they wanted without any kind of restrictions. So it's an interesting thing that it's going to be fascinating to watch moving forward. It's funny to me to see the fan reaction is so just, you're either one side of it or the other. It's very polarizing. We're either going all in on men's basketball and we're throwing the white flag in on football. But yeah,
go ahead, Jacob.
I'll add one thing because I can't really talk about the football side, but the basketball side, being at Peach Jam all last week, it was a topic of conversation, and the overwhelming answer that I got was Kentucky doesn't have anything to worry about as far as basketball and NIL. They're going to find a way, whether that's however much money they're getting in rev share and then paying outside of rev share through collectives and things like that. It was just, you can discuss the semantics of all of it, but Kentucky will have nothing to worry about was what the consensus answer was from coaches, scouts, and everyone.
Yeah, and the basketball team will probably end up being fine no matter how it all shakes out. They'll find ways to get that money, whether it's through the clearinghouse or however. But like you said, Tyler, like you're waving, if you are giving 45% to your men's basketball team, you're effectively just waving the white flag on football. You're just saying you're going to kill your program doing that, because just from a pure numbers perspective, like you just have to have enough money to pay all those kids, or else they're just going to go somewhere else. So like if you're going to do that, like you might as well just take the football team to the ACC, because there's just no point in staying in the SEC. You're just going to lose every single game. So that seems just almost irresponsible to even, kind of think of doing that. But I'm sure there's probably much more legs to all this stuff. There are, tentacles that we're just not seeing. So I'm sure it goes much more in depth than what we're talking about. But just on the surface, it seems very silly.
Yeah, and I'm glad I'm not the one that has to make the decisions. That sounds very, very stressful. Some good comments from the chat. Agent GS Rice says, football will never get in the right spot, handicapping them like that. And he follows up with, everyone is running at a 70-15-15 breakdown. I think most we could devote would be 60-30-10 or 65-25-10. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think those are probably closer to the real numbers. Eddie Congress just waited and said, I hope the 45% figure is true, but it's probably just a rival coach throwing what at the fan. Yeah,
could be.
I think there's a big part of that too, because since that report came out, fans of other teams have been in my mentions because I tweeted it out, and they're like, oh, they're just mad that Auburn blew them out in Rupp Arena last year. They're just throwing all the money at it. It's like, well, a little more complicated than that. So
yeah.
A lot remains to be seen there. Let's see. Next up on the docket, KS Board Q&A. Shout out to KS Board. If you're watching this now, you can get 2 months for $1 with the promo code UK1. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
UK1. All right. We're still rolling out that. What is our first question? Steven, give it to us.
Sorry, the graphics aren't pulling up. I'll just read it. What artist have you seen the most live in concert, and what was the furthest you traveled to see them in concert?
That's a good question. I think I've seen Tyler Childers multiple times. I'm not a huge concert person. Usually if I see a band once, I'm like, oh, that was a good show. I really, really have to love somebody to see him multiple times. I've seen Tyler Childers a couple times now, and I think both of those were in Nashville. So I traveled maybe 5 miles to see him. But yeah, Jacob, what about you?
I don't know if this is actually the one I've seen most, but the one that comes to mind is Pearl Jam, because my dad is a massive Pearl Jam fan, and the furthest I saw was maybe Lexington, because my dad took me to a Pearl Jam concert when I was a senior in high school in Lexington. I think he used that as he said that it was to check out the University of Kentucky, but I think he was using that as an excuse to go see Pearl Jam. So I saw, from San Diego to Lexington might have been the furthest I've seen them.
Wait, was this during your high school?
Yeah, high school junior, high school senior, something around
So you
there.
visited UK as a prospective student?
I did.
He was a recruit on campus.
And you chose Kansas?
Hey, I told this story before. I was down to Kansas and Kentucky. They were playing each other in basketball. I was like, you know what? Whoever wins. So you have John Calipari to blame for me not going to Kentucky.
Our hearts. Ow.
But hey, if he went to Kentucky, he'd probably be working for Kansas Sports Radio Plus right now. So
that's true.
Everything comes full circle.
That's true. Mm-hmm. All right, Zach, what about you?
Well, I've only been to 6 concerts in my life, and 4 of them have come since I've started dating my girlfriend, and most of it is people.
I love that you know the exact number.
Yeah, it's that few. I have seen a couple people that I really like. Actually, I was in Nashville, I think last summer, to see one of my favorite R&B artists. His name is Sir. I saw Jack Harlow at Rupp Arena a couple of years ago. I was at a Billy Strings concert in Rupp Arena 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
you saw the Avett Brothers?
I did see the Avett, yeah, with Jake. I ran into Jacob at Rupp Arena at the Avett Brothers. That was a weird, my girlfriend won free tickets. There was another concert we went to as well right around that time where she won free tickets for. I forget what that was for, but yeah. So it's one of those the Billy Strings concert. I couldn't hear a word they were saying. I remember, but I had a blast going there, so it was a lot of fun. But yeah, most of the time there, the farthest I've been is Nashville. I don't think I've ever seen the same artist twice though in concert, so I'm kind of laying
Billy
with that.
Strings has like a cult following. Like he is
Oh
so
my
popular.
gosh, he did back-to-back days here at Rupp, and
Wow.
I've never seen, like, they had a whole tailgate set up, like, selling
Yeah.
T-shirts and food and stuff out there in the Rupp Arena parking lot. It was crazy. I mean, the place was packed. There was at least 15,000 people in there from what they had it set up as. So it was really cool. I had a blast.
Yeah, Billy Strings is great. I love a couple of his songs, but I'm nowhere near the level of fan that like his actual fans are. He had like a multi-night residency at the Ryman. I think it's sold out every night. Like restaurants around town were doing Billy Strings specials and all that. Avett Brothers is a great one. I loved Avett Brothers. I've seen them once. I've seen Old Crow Medicine Show a few times. They're really fun. They put on a good show. So yeah, lots of good concerts. Share some of yours in the comments. I've seen Beyonce at Vanderbilt Stadium on her tour with Jay-Z. That was fun.
That'd be fun. Absolutely.
I was on like the tip top row of Vandy Stadium, pre-renovation, mind you. I thought that place was going to fall down. Like I thought the stadium was just going to crumble underneath us. Awesome show though. Loved it. I've seen Rolling Stones at Nissan Stadium. Not a huge Rolling Stones fan, but they put on an incredible show. Like everything you've heard about them, it's live, lives up to it. Mick Jagger, I don't know how he still moves like that at his age. It's amazing. I've seen Lady Gaga. Oh, as Remy weighs in. I've seen Lady Gaga a few times. She's really good. And Madonna once. Yeah, so I've seen a lot of concerts, it turns out.
You've seen a few. More than me, for sure.
Been around the block. I've seen more than 6. All right, what's our next question, Steven? Oh, okay. What is your all's favorite guilty pleasure song or movie? For him, it's All Coming Back to Me Now by Celine Dion. That is definitely a guilty pleasure song. And movie, Sweet Home Alabama. Wow. Thank you for sharing those confessions and being brave enough to put it out there. Ooh. Let's see. I'm trying to think. I don't really have a ton of guilty pleasures. I kind of just like fess up to it. But I guess like, some cheesy rom-coms. Sweet Home Alabama's good. That's one if it's on TV and the TV ends up on it, I'll leave it on. Do you all have any that like immediately come to mind while I sit here?
What's the one with Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper? That movie.
Oh, the song. The song was Shallow.
A Star Is Born. That movie. Yeah. That's probably the movie. I'm not sure about song.
Yeah, I don't think I have a movie. I'm not a huge movie guy. I will say I thought a little bit about the song question, and I'll be honest, there's like a handful of Ariana Grande songs that I like. Yeah, like she's got it's really like upbeat pop star type stuff. So like, especially if you're on a run, like, and she's just singing in your ear, it makes you want to just like run an extra mile, So big fan of her music. Quietly, yeah. And my girlfriend is a big fan of Wicked, so I've heard all of the other songs as well from her.
Wicked is awesome. I do love some good like 90s ballads. Like I feel like people don't do ballads as much anymore. Like Celine Dion's a good example of that, where you just have these like 6-7 minute long songs. Like people don't really the attention spans aren't quite there as much anymore. It's not a guilty pleasure, but maybe a surprising admission by me. When I run, I like to listen to like hardcore rap. Like
there you go.
Stuff you would not expect on my playlist. So it's really funny whenever I have Spotify on and I'll try on their like AI DJ or whatever. It is all across the spectrum. You've got
it keeps you going though. It gets the energy pumping. Yeah.
It does get some weird looks if we are like have people over and we just put it on and they're like, "You listen to this?" Like we went from Britney Spears to like Wu-Tang Clan. Like what are we doing here? But it's all good. Let's see. Loving Native English. I'm gonna get this name right. Loving Native English. Clint Vincent in the chat says The Weeknd is great and my guilty pleasure.
Like The Weeknd.
Yeah, The Weeknd. Seth Kilgore, country music makes me hope for dinner time. Oh, gosh.
Billy Strings, they're probably talking about Billy Strings. I don't consider that country at all because I'm not a huge country fan. Like when I think of country, I'm thinking like I had my beer with my honey and my truck type music. Like bluegrass has a little bit more soul to it. So I was down with that. I could vibe to that a little bit more than the actual, the real like whatever mainstream country music is going on right now.
Yeah, like Steven said in the chat, I would call that like Americana. Like, because I don't really consider Tyler Childers country.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah, I don't like country music in terms of like bro country music, which is
Yeah.
kind of ironic because I live in Nashville, but I hate all of that stuff. But like, yeah, Tyler Childers, Sturgill Simpson, even Chris Stapleton, Billy Strings, like that stuff has some soul to it, you know, and coincidentally, they're all Kentuckians. I don't know where Billy Strings is from, but he's an honorary Kentuckian.
Michigan, I believe, actually.
Michigan.
Mhm.
There you go. All right, Stephen, what's next? All right. Today is my wife and mine's 24th anniversary. Happy anniversary, Andrew. What are some fun or off the wall things people have done on their anniversaries? We're getting ready to be empty nesters. Also, congratulations on that. So starting to look for different ways to celebrate other than just a nice dinner out or the standard things. I'm big into gifting like experiences over material things lately. Like maybe that's just because you get to a certain point in your life and you're like, I have all I need. I don't need another like sweater. I don't need something, whatever.
Yeah.
But I love going, like getting tickets to a concert. Like I got tickets for my husband and I to go see Camp. That's one of his favorite bands. So we're doing that later on this summer. A nice dinner out's always good, but I get that you want to up the ante. So what's your all's go-to anniversary gifts or experiences?
Mine's the dinners. I'd like,
Yeah.
well, that's my favorite thing though. Like my favorite thing to spend my money on is to go out to eat and like have a nice dinner and stuff like that. So that's almost not like I'm settling type thing. Like that's what we both like actively want to do. And we're only on. Yeah, I haven't had enough anniversaries to get to the point where we're doing off the wall things and all that. So, but I will one day, and then I'll need my weird ideas. So I'll circle back to Andrew at that point, and he'll be a veteran of this anniversary game, and he can tell me then.
All right. What are your favorite spots in Lexington for a nice dinner out?
Oh, OBC, definitely. That's my favorite spot in Lexington for sure. There's a bunch of different places downtown. Like we love going to Coeur d'Alene. If you ever been to Coeur d'Alene, shout out to people that like down there. That's near Jacob's old house, Jacob's old stomping grounds in Lexington there. So, but OBC I think is the best food in Lexington. So that's where I would always recommend someone go.
Sounds good. All right, Jacob, you're up.
Yeah,
I hope your girlfriend's not listening in case you have something planned. I don't know when your anniversary is.
We haven't hit our year anniversary yet, so I don't have anything to work on or to any experience to use. But it's going to be hard because we just had a great trip to South America, Paraguay, Argentina, Uruguay. So I don't know how I'll be able to top that. So that one, that I'll consider that the anniversary, and then come up with maybe a dinner or something calm for the year anniversary.
So since you made the move from Lexington to Louisville, have you all found any good spots in Louisville you like to go to?
Yeah, well, Nick Roush, I got to credit him. He's probably sent me pages of lists of places. So we have no worries finding places to eat and drink and go anywhere. So shout out to Nick for that.
We'll have to get Nick on to share some of his at some point. So Andrews says the next year will be the big one. Where should I take her to celebrate our 25th anniversary? Ooh, good question. I would want to go all out on a big trip. That's just me. I love to travel. So can't go wrong with, yeah. Oh, yeah, share
Julie's
Julie.
comment. My goodness, Julie. I feel like we need to have Julie on to get the whole scoop there.
No. Says my husband served me with divorce papers on their 22nd anniversary. Yeah. Ouch.
Don't do that one for the 25th. That one's probably
don't do that. Yeah, don't take that advice, Andrew. Don't take that advice. Yeah, anywhere international would be fun. Argentina, any of the places that Jacob went to, his pictures were fantastic.
Iguazu Falls is the coolest place I've ever been to in my entire life. That
place was wild. Like I don't know if we could get Steven a picture that he could show, if you could like look at his Instagram or something. But yeah, it looked like. Have you been to Niagara Falls or any other like big waterfalls that you could compare it to?
My girlfriend had been to Niagara Falls like 6 months earlier, and she said that this was 10 times cooler.
Yeah.
So I guess it's one of the 9 new wonders of the world, something like that. I may have just made up a number, but it was on some sort of list that I was told. So it was like no exaggeration, the coolest place I've been in my life.
That is awesome. Well, put it on our bucket list. We have some people in the comments weighing in. My wife and I celebrated 30 years earlier this year at Disney World. So second honeymoon. Their original honeymoon was also to Disney. They had several great meals while there. Wow. I mean, there was a big debate on KSR about adults going to Disney World, but you know what? Everybody's got their thing. So if you love it, do it.
Let people have fun. Come on.
Epcot.
Seth Kilgore in there being a buzzkill in the comments about it. Yeah, come on.
I mean, when I went to Disney World, when I went to Disney World, it shows you how big of a nerd I am. That my favorite part was Epcot because I just liked going around to different countries, and this is when I was like 12. So nowadays, I hear like it's a popular thing if you go to Disney World as an adult, go to Epcot and get like a drink in every country and do your tour around the world. But yeah. So that was good. Happy 24th. Look forward to the 25th. If you want some classic gift ideas, the 25th wedding anniversary is silver. So
just a big brick of silver. There you go.
Yeah. Get her some silver. It'll always appreciate, not depreciate, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. I think that's it. Unless we have any more comments from KS Board or from the chat, I think we're coming up right on 1 hour. So thanks for joining us. And like I said, we've got a lot coming up this week. We are still rolling out stuff from Mark Pope's press conference. La Familia plays Everleen Drive tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern at Memorial Coliseum. If you don't go, watch it on FS2, then watch Zack Geoghegan and Mario Maitland break it down on the Rapid Reaction. And then on Thursday, we talked to the 3 Kentucky basketball freshmen. We've got Braden Hawthorne, a.k.a. Tayshaun Prince, Jasper Johnson, and Malachi Marino. And I'm sure there's some other fun stuff cooked up for later in this week. So if La Familia wins tomorrow, they don't play until a week from today, right?
Yes, they'll play next Monday.
Okay.
In Memorial again. Yeah.
I know. How awesome would that be? So we'll be crossing our fingers for that. And until then, hold up your country boy brews. Cheers to another week. And thanks for joining us. Until next time.